So I read an article, made me really think, why isn't street food more popular in the Philippines? And this is what Straits Times had to say. On a humid July morning in Manila's Coyapo district, street vendors Jacqueline Alfaro was busy frying strips of pork, lungs, and delicacy that made her stall famous on Carriedo Street. Once bustling stretch packed with vendors, Carriedo changed after Mayor Isko Moreno's street cleanup policy began on June 30th, removing stalls from main roads to clear space for pedestrians and vehicles. Alfaro now works in an authorized vending zone but misses the heavy foot traffic on her old location. Her situation reflects a wider impact of clearing operations across Manila, which have displaced vendors to side streets and sparked debate over their role in city life. While cities like Bangkok and Singapore have turned street vendors into tourist draws, the Philippines lacks infrastructure, policies, and cultural support to make hawker culture thrive. Vendors are often tolerated but rarely integrated into long-term planning. Moreno's directive bans vending on major roads, dismantles stalls blocking pavements, and aims to restore order. Supporters praise the improved mobility, but critics say it prioritizes cars over livelihoods, pushing sellers into low-traffic areas where earnings collapse. For example, balut vendor Ricardo Ibanez said his daily income dropped from 4,000 pesos to 1,000 pesos after being moved to a side street. A deeper challenge lies in perception. Street food in the Philippines is often seen as dirty and linked to poverty rather than culinary heritage. Chef Jason Malut notes that for many, vending is the last resort during financial hardship, not a respected profession. Fast food chains offering consistent quality and comfort have further marginalized hawkers. Urban planners Paulo Alcazaran says Manila's struggle stems from decades of piecemeal policy and lack of facilities. In cities like Singapore, hawker centers were deliberately built with utilities, sanitation, and seating allowed regulations and integration into urban life. In Manila, periodic clearances happen without providing alternatives. Some Philippine cities, such as Pasig and Quezon City, have successfully designated vending spots with standardized stalls and regular sanitation checks, but these are small in scale compared to Manila's estimated 50,000 registered vendors, plus many unlicensed snipers. One proposed solution is to dedicate a single street to a regulated food bazaar, similar to Bangkok's night markets or Singapore's hawker centers. However, officials argue Manila's vendors' numbers and enforcement challenges make this difficult. Vendors like Alfaro still hopes for such a transformation, envisioning Carriedo Street as a clean, organized food street rather than being emptied out. Quote, "We envy what they have in Thailand, Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong. We hope to have something like this here someday," she said. Very interesting. Now, to be fair, it's very difficult to compare countries, right? Every country is different, different laws, regulation, everything. But even Thailand and Bangkok specifically, recently they're clearing out the street vendors. They have to be in like registered areas, just like the person mentioned in the Philippines. And one more thing is like you have to think about what the pavement was meant for. It's not really for people to be selling things and parking cars or whatever. It's meant for pedestrians. If you live anywhere in major cities in the Philippines, it's very difficult to actually walk with peace of mind. Usually you're obstructed with something. A food vendor, somebody's house coming, or like people putting tables on there, cars parked on there. And like it's difficult to just walk around. The commuting can be very difficult. Of course, that also leads to traffic and safety. There's a whole bunch of reasons why one would actually support trying to organize this a little bit and have like designated areas. However, on the other hand, like they mentioned, it really does affect the people that are earning money through selling food on the street, right? So street food is a thing all around the world. And the Philippines is no different. People want to make money, they have to make a living, and to go from like 4,000 pesos a day to only 1,000 is a significant decrease, especially for a local, well, most likely a local. I'm sure I don't know any foreigners selling stuff on the street right now, at least not legally. So that's a big impact, especially if you have like a large family or even a small family, right? So those are some things that you have to consider when you're like thinking out loud. Because of course, from my perspective, it's selfish of me to say, yeah, clear the street so I can walk easier, right? But you got to put yourself in other people's shoes. I think the best way to be is, like they said, try to license it, organize it, and have like dedicated zones where it's a bit more easier to even navigate, because I want to be comfortable when I'm getting something to eat on the street as well. Now let's take a look at some people's opinions in the comment section. Someone says, because the government makes little to no effort in promoting or sustaining the honker scene. We also have a habit of associating honkers with poverty. Look at what Singapore did. Rather than reject their hawkers, they modernize. The result is vibrant hawker scene where food is not just celebrated, but exalted. I think that's the first time I've ever read that word. I assume it means like excellentated. Please help me. I'm sure I could Google it after. But yeah, it's very true. If you've been to Singapore, you'll see that it's a very, just like many of the countries they mentioned, the hawker scene is very like vibrant, and they're right in the middle of some of the most beautiful buildings. It's not really something they discourage. It's like almost like an evening activity where everybody goes out to get something to eat, which is kind of cool. Another person says, unhealthy, unsanitary, lacks herbs and veggies, presentation compared to Singapore and Thailand. Singapore, Thailand, Taipei, they cook not just to make money, but to impress because of good food. I cannot deny that, to be honest and fair to everything that this person said. Some of the ingredients, actually one of my biggest, I think, complaints about street food in the Philippines, whichever place I've been to, no matter how many vendors you have in a row, most of them are really selling the same thing. Where if you go to these other countries, there's like a wide variety of it. So I can't really speak about the sanitation and all that because I think any street food, not any, but most of them tend to be kind of similar. So you got to kind of put that behind. And like I've eaten street food every day in India. So for me personally, of course, it's never as clean as somewhere else. But then again, some restaurants, you don't know what's going on in the kitchen, buddy. You don't even see it. At least with street food, you can kind of see how they handle it and you can choose whether you want to eat there or not. So yeah, this person makes a good food and bringing out the quality itself and ingredients of the main dishes. A lot of times it's mainly like large quantities of food ordered through China or somewhere, frozen and then deep fried on the street. Doesn't really have the same kind of impact somebody making fresh stir fry pad thai, pad siu, or like pad kapow on the street, something like that. Or like, we're talking about mee goreng or something like that from Indonesia. Another person says, I don't want to sell cold drinks and quack quack for the rest of my life. When accumulated, upgrade to classier food. Here we go again, like the perception, right? So I think that locally, the culture, many people, instead of like maybe going on the street and having some street food, they much rather go ahead and have some Jollibee, for example. And the price, the competition for the price is also another key point. In the Philippines, a lot of fast food joints offer you amazing deals. Like you can get a combo for like 89 pesos, right? Just less than $2. And it may not be very filling or whatever, but you can do it. It's not American sized portion, but like if you're someone in the Philippines that grew up eating just like rice and chicken, for example, and those portions meet your standards because you're not coming from the U.S. where everything is like supersized, or Canada, right? So the point is, you can get a full-on meal for like $1.50 and $2 even. So it's difficult to go from that to just having like a meat on a stick. You might as well go inside with AC, sit on down, eat something, and it's the same price essentially. So that is a good point, that the people don't usually correlate street food with like luxury or something. Because some countries, street food is more expensive than actual fast food places. So there's a difference there as well, right? So the quality, the quantity, the pricing, there's just way too many factors, I think, to try to pinpoint exactly why Filipino street food isn't that popular compared to other places. Leave your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, something that we didn't cover from the reasoning given by this article and my personal opinions, and also some of the comments, because I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you agree, disagree? Anything you want to share, especially if you're Filipino, because I'd like to hear from you guys and what is your perspective on street food. One time I did get sick from eating street food, but then again, that's a risk you take with anything, right? So it really comes down to your comfort zone and where you're living. I've been to actual like night markets in the Philippines as well. So there are those zones and regulations. I think it's a bit more organized, so you can sit down, there's live music and band. I'm a big fan of street food myself personally, and I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.